Now, Pavarotti was a good friend.
Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host Pavarotti, here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. As a disclaimer, this channel, for entertainment purposes, my opinions, I'm not here to slander anyone, so let's get started. Today, what I wanted to discuss, this one's going to be a lead-in, but I think it's important for you to see because I am working on the timeline of the investigation post the atrocity for you, and that one I'm putting a lot of time and effort in, so it's going to take me quite a bit longer. But I also realize that a lot of you that are watching me now haven't been watching me this whole time, so for me to really have the impact that it needs to have when I do that timeline video, there's certain things that I need to cover with you before we just step into it so that you're aware of it. And when you see it in the timeline, it'll make much more sense to you. Also, as I do that, and I've been researching things to assist with that, I've uncovered something else. Mind-blowing. I mean, absolutely mind-blowing. It is unbelievable how things have been manipulated to us in this case. Even when things have happened in the filings in the case, instead of people being able to look at it and interpret it for what it is, the media jumps on every little thing and twists it so that we all think we know what it's about. And I assure you, we do not. Well, we're finding out, and I'm going to expose some other things that will absolutely blow your mind. And I'm not going to do that in this video. This one's short because I want to touch on a subject that, I mean, it needs to be touched on. And it's something that somebody had brought up. And the person that brought it up was actually somebody, not being nice to Pavarotti. But regardless, he brought up a really good question. I think we need to address it in this one. But as I was deep diving the video, there's going to be 2 videos today, okay? And these are both all important as it relates to that timeline video that I'm working on. But the second video, do not miss it, because I'm going to expose some things that you never would have ever thought of on Brady Giglio, or Giglio, ever how you say it, because what we were told is not what actually that filing was about, and I'm going to expose it in the next video, so be watching out for that. Also, I mean, it's kind of amazing to me with all the stuff that I've put out here that, I mean, I don't get anybody hardly on on what I'm saying. They're even my content creators that I'm cool with and I appreciate. They say they appreciate me. They always end it with a caveat of, but I don't buy his theories, but he's good. I don't know what I got to do on this case to convince people that what I'm saying is the most likely path to this thing in many different ways. And I'm going to continue to do what I do. And when this thing all comes out in the wash, I promise you there is going to be some people that I guarantee they're going to be like, oh yeah, I was with what Pavarotti was saying all along. Heck, in fact, most of those are my ideas. I guarantee you it'll be that way. Even though that you could not point to hardly anybody right now that's saying what he's saying is correct. I mean, it's just funny. But what I want to do in this one is take someone's critique of me, and as he's critiquing, he makes a very valid point. I don't think he realized he was making this valid point, but nonetheless, he makes a valid point and he raises a big question. And we're going to address that question in this one. First, let's take a listen to a short clip for when he was critiquing, and let's get that question. And this is not going to be a negative negative towards him in any way. This is actually, I'm going to use negativity and turn it into positivity in this one. So let's take a listen.
Oh boy, look at this.
You can see there, Washington and
All of this just proves nothing. It gets better though. Watch this. It gets better. So Blum, because the law enforcement that was on the case won't talk to him, he talks to other law enforcement and he uses that as a surrogate for, having sources within law enforcement that say. So this should give you an idea about his sources. There are know-nothings that aren't close to the investigation, although he tries to make it seem like they are, but they're not. And they have no idea. They're just opining as well. So this is just someone opining, just like the woman in the Facebook post. That was the view from 1,000 feet. But Sheriff Brett Myers, head of the Quad Cities Drug Task Force, a multi-jurisdictional team propped up in part by federal money, whose territory included the university towns of Moscow and Pullman, along with Lewis Clark State College in Lewiston, Idaho, offered a ground-level account. And it was enough to give anyone whose child was heading off to college in the area their willies. The sheriff shared that his task force was working with college kids in the local schools whom they had caught dealing MDMA and cocaine. Note, that's not meth, folks, okay? That's not meth. Flipping them and using the students to go after big local dealers. And once the scared, witless college kids had helped his team ID the foot soldiers, we go up the ladder to get the people tied to the cartels in the cities. And we all know from other various cases what they do to these poor kids, all right? They put their lives in danger, and we have seen this. So this guy is a scumbag, all right? Law enforcement treats informants like this like trash. Just like Thomas Jefferson treated poor white people, as we'll learn in a second. The sheriff took a philosophical perspective on the possible danger the frat boy double agents might be heading into. It could be, he acknowledged equably, there are some very tough guys running this business. The risks, however, were no deterrent. We're game to do that every day of the week, he promised. Was some sort of similar intrigue going on in Moscow the night the 4 students were murdered? The sheriff was not involved in the investigation and therefore can only speculate. So here we have J. Armpit, which we know Blum's book is like almost entirely speculation in and of itself, right? It's just fiction. He makes it up. He's making it up. This is not evidence of anything. It's conjecture, speculation. As this sheriff says, he wasn't involved at all. But this was a local lawman's informed conjecture, and a resonating one. Could it have been a drug-related case? I can't rule it out. It's not improbable. But what I know, that answered a lot of questions. So I'm going to say right now that sheriff's not saying that now. He might have spoken to the sheriff when he was in town and he needed to speak to somebody in law enforcement. And so he goes and finds the sheriff who's not involved in the investigation. He gets into a pint about before Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Now I guarantee you that sheriff's not going to come out and say that now. Okay? So Puberati Armpit is using disinformation from Howard Blum about a sheriff's speculation and conjecture as a receipt. And it's
what he says is absolutely true. When he's talking about how Howard Bloom got a hold of, a law enforcement officer that was not involved in the investigation, he had no involvement in the investigation, he brings up a great point. Because all we were told that was involved in this investigation was the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and the Idaho State Police. Never once was Brett Myers of the Whitman County Sheriff, the head of the Drug Task Force, was never brought up. But not only that, the entire Whitman County Sheriff's Department was never brought up to be involved. And even more weird is the Latah County Sheriff's Department was not said to be involved. So that was a very good point that he brought up, and now we've got to explore it a little bit more because, and by the way, we're We know everything that we're talking about, he can't grasp, but we know what he truly believes, and he's trying to lead people to. Just once again, let me show you.
Thus invalidates the probable cause affidavit. Thus invalidates the probable cause affidavit.
Okay, I can assure you that is not what happened. Okay? Didn't happen, folks. So you can continue to try to prove that theory all you want, validate any PCA you want. Even the prosecutor says PCA is irrelevant at this stage, but we'll keep deep diving into that part. But let's move on to what we were talking about. Because how is it that the Whitman County Sheriff's Department and the Latah County Sheriff's Department and the Drug Task Force was never mentioned as being involved in this investigation? And this investigation was considered massive, the biggest one in the state, maybe the country. I mean, let's take a look at just how this pans out.
So we have one of the largest investigations in Idaho history, maybe the largest investigation in the U.S. at the time, and it's being led by the tiny little city of Moscow Police Department and their detectives, and we know that they've enlisted help of other agencies. Those other agencies include the Idaho State Police. Now this makes sense because they have experienced detectives as well as equipment and local lab resources. They have their forensic team. So of course this one makes sense. Then we have the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They provided many agents and all of those resources that come with the FBI. So those are the three agencies involved in this investigation. But like he said in his critique of me, why was the sheriff's offices of Latah and Whitman County not utilized in this investigation? They are never mentioned. Now look at the map of Whitman County. And Whitman County, as you can see here, borders Moscow, Idaho. And it contains Pullman, Washington. Also, the sheriff of Whitman County is the head of the Quad Cities Drug Task Force that encompasses Moscow. Remember, the Drug Task Force, that covers all of Pullman, Moscow, and 2 other counties, and anything involved with DRUG transactions, informants, it all would go through the Quad Cities Drug Task Force and Sheriff Brett Myers. So how were they not consulted? How was he not part of the investigation if the investigation even remotely looked at a drug angle? Never once has even the Whitman County Sheriff's Department, that covers all of Whitman County, been included in any accreditation for the investigation into the Moscow unalivings. Which brings up this question. The sheriff's office for Latah County is not mentioned anywhere being involved in the investigation. Now that encompasses the city of Moscow and all of Latah County. And not to mention, they are also part of the Quad Cities Drug Task Force. They have personnel in the task force. How is the Latah County Sheriff's Office never mentioned as being involved in the investigation in any way? And why wouldn't they be? They actually run the jail. I mean, it's the Latah County Sheriff's Office jail. They're responsible for the jail. How are they not involved in the investigation? Why has nobody asked this? Here's the front door to the Latah County Jail, obviously run by the Sheriff's Office. So the Sheriff of Latah County has never been mentioned in the investigation. Any of the personnel, how is that possible? Where was Latah County? Where were they involved in all this? This is straight off of the Moscow Police Department community page. And you can see it says the law enforcement community in Moscow is strong. We continually partner with the Latah County Sheriff's Office and the Idaho State Police for work and social events. Well, you didn't partner with them for work on the largest case in the history of your city. So why is that? So you can see all of the agencies in the area that should have been involved in the investigation, but the only ones that were apparently were the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and the Idaho State Police. Never once is it mentioned that the Latah County Sheriff's Office, who runs the jail, is involved, or the Whitman County Sheriff's Office that covers Pullman and all of Washington in that area. And the only common denominator is the Latah County Sheriff's Office and the Whitman County Sheriff's Office are involved in the Quad Cities Drug Task Force, but they are assisted from the FBI and the Idaho State Police.
So, I mean, with all those agencies intertwined and none of them listed as being involved in this investigation, well, that would leave somebody to believe either one of two things. One, that this crime was never investigated as a possible drug crime with possible danger to relatives from informants in any way, because if it was, then you would absolutely involve the drug task force. You would involve the county sheriffs. Everybody would be involved. So if they never investigated it from that angle, then what kind of investigation could this have possibly been? That's one. Now the other is, they didn't want to mention the involvement of Whitman County, Latah County, or the Drug Task Force because they wanted to keep that under wraps. And I'm going to vote option number 2 on this one because in the next video, we're going to break down a lot deeper how the investigation and the drugs and the informants and what is Brady Giglio all about? Why did they do that? We're going to break it down. We're going to open some eyes. And then when we go into that timeline, it's going to be so much easier for you to understand and see what I'm trying to get across to you. But please like and subscribe to the channel. Post your comments, your thoughts. Post anything you'd like to post. And until later on, Pavarotti's out.